Full disclosure, news and commentary, the WIFLI edition, meaning when I feel like it. Lots of people have asked for me to do full disclosure, and unlike when other people say things like that, it's actually true. By the way, this is my view right now. Those are the hills I'm going to be walking up and down. So yeah, I'm going to be short of breath. You caught me in the middle of my warm-up for my workout today. But I got to speak on things, and so I'm going to. Sorry if the sound quality is not so good. I'm sure you'll live, and I'm sure you'll be listening up. What am I going to talk about? I'm going to talk about three main subjects. The first subject is those pro-South chat leaks, what I think they mean, how fucking hilarious they were, and what it says about the state of wrestling, especially independent wrestling in the Southeast. Another thing I'm going to talk about is Larry Goodman, one of my favorite subjects. I adore Larry. By the way, Tipping Point is coming up on its 8th anniversary. That's right, 8 years we've been doing that shit. Pretty great. And lastly, I'm going to talk about something that I would love everybody to keep in mind about the Georgia Wrestling History Awards. We're approaching the month of May, which means a third of the year is already done. Can you believe that ish? And yeah. But shit, let's get to what everybody wants to fucking hear about, those chats. Special thanks to the person who sent me the chats so I could look at all of them. You know who you are. Okay. First, let's address this idea of, is it Kamikaze? Is that who the fuck that was? I'm not 100% sure. Let's just assume it's him. It sounds like a bold, brash, dumb shit young wrestler thing. And then let me say that off the rip. Confidence is something that performers have. I've dealt with a lot of performers in my life, not only pro wrestlers, but actors and wannabe stuntmen of all stripes. For a little perspective, not only did I wrestle for years, not only did I run PCW, not only did I train any number of wrestlers and people who went to do other great things in the wrestling business, but I used to do fight choreography in Atlanta at various theaters. I was intimately involved with a number of theaters while I was in Atlanta, etc., etc., etc. So I've dealt with all kinds of people, actors and performers and wrestlers, and they all, on some level, think incredibly highly of themselves. It kind of goes part and parcel of the business. But when I did a loose search of what are the states in the Southeast, what I found was there was a great many of them, even more than I thought, honestly. Things like Virginia, I didn't think that Virginia and West Virginia are part of the Southeast, but apparently they are. But even if you just think of the Southeast, and don't worry, I'm getting to the point. Even if you just think of the Southeast as, like, let's say Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, and other people would probably throw other states in there. So if Chris's claim is that he is one of the 5 best wrestlers in the Southeast, let me ask this simple question. Is Chris even the best wrestler at Pro South? I would guess that there's at least 2 people who are part of that chat nonsense who would secretly, or not so secretly, dispute even that claim. But let's be very generous, extremely generous, and say Chris is the best person at Pro South in Alabama. If you factor in the other Alabama promotions, Chris is certainly not the best at those because he doesn't wrestle for those. So each one of those people, in turn, have their own best wrestler, theoretically. Is Chris better than them? Probably fucking not. Right, but even factoring in all of that, does that mean that Chris is the best wrestler that works in Alabama? No fucking way. But let's say that he is. We're being crazy generous, unbelievably generous. Stephen Platinum levels of generous, as any number of people that I mentored and helped along and put in the wrestling business who probably didn't deserve it, and continue to show ingratitude to this day, and are convinced that somehow I hurt their burgeoning careers, even though they may have been talentless fucks with two left fucking feet. But I digress. So now each one of those states, Georgia, Florida, which have much more flourishing and burgeoning scenes as far as independent wrestling goes. How many promotions are in each one of those states? Those two states alone. Let's be generous and say it's 30. Let's say that there are some people that are the best wrestler in more than one of those promotions, and let's be charitable there. And so let's just say that there are 10 great wrestlers in Georgia and 10 in Florida. Again, incredibly low estimates. Is Chris better than the 10 best wrestlers in Georgia and the 10 best wrestlers in Florida? Fuck no, not even close. So that's already knocked him out of the top 20, much less the top 5. And again, I'm going to go back to that first question. Is he even the best wrestler currently at Pro South? Is he so great that he's really packing them in at 5 people watching a show? Ooh, time to walk a hill. So that whole chat, I'm watching the discussion, especially from Matthias and other dumb fucks, and even Ace. I gotta say, with Ace, I'm incredibly disappointed. I get the instinct of thinking that you're underappreciated and you were underappreciated for a long time and that you deserved more and all this stuff. But him passively sort of listening to his crew be this sort of whiny, bitch-made bunch of assholes was a little disconcerting. I certainly had no problem in my time with PCW when one of them would say something particularly bone-fucking-headed or too self-aggrandizing. I would stop it. And I'll talk about that more in a second in my third point. But this being said, it's people chatting about things in a private chat. And if wrestling people are being honest, or even people who are pretending to be wrestling people, if you took any one of their chats and you looked at them, you would be horrified. The shit that we talk about and the shit that we talk is mind-boggling. If anybody took any of the chats that I had with the GWH people, or the chats that I had with friends of mine in the wrestling business, the stuff that we discuss, the stuff we pass back and forth, the stuff that we theorize about, the rumors that we discuss, the shit that we talk about people that are not in the group, well, that's what private chats are about. With that said, I'm going to segue into my second point. I find it really fascinating that Pro South, whom, without Larry Goodman covering your shows, wouldn't even be known, might very well be closed. May have one person watching instead of 5. Certainly would never be a part of the Georgia Wrestling History Awards. Certainly would have never received any kind of flowers. The fact that those ungrateful fucks have a nerve to say anything negative about Larry, anything other than, it's really great that Larry gives us that coverage. We probably don't deserve it, because that's the truth. I've seen Larry over the years be really gracious with people who are really shitty to him. People like, and I'll just say his name, Murder One, and Josh Wheeler, who continue to berate Larry from time to time, tell him to not come to their shows, do their best to sort of downgrade him in public. But you know, for all the shit that Pro South has said, and Murder has said, and other people have said, at the end of the day, Larry is above it all. Larry still goes to the shows that he wants to go to, still gives coverage to the shows that he feels that deserves it, in spite of what people say to him, in spite of the undercutting that people try to do to him. When the tapped out guys or Heath Mulligan say something shitty and broadside him, he rises above it. And he just keeps pressing on. And at the end of the day, after those fat fucks in particular are dead, gone, and buried, Larry's legacy lives on. The Goodmans live on. Georgia Wrestling History Awards live on. And Murder, at least, he is a legitimate, legendary part of the business. And him and Larry are allowed to squabble. Fuck, Murder and I have squabbled before. It's what people who know what they're doing tend to do. You butt heads. You think Jeff G. Bailey and I butt heads? All the time. That's a different thing than a bunch of barely R's at Pro South taking swipes at Larry like they need his approval. Oh, I agree with a lot of what Larry says, but not everything. You know what that tells me? That there are aspects of the wrestling business that you don't know what you're talking about. Nothing more, nothing less. So in conclusion, the Pro South shit, it's just people chatting and what they thought was a private thing. That's one thing, but it does reveal a great deal of character weakness and ingratitude that they themselves think they are receiving from others. And the last thing, and this is part of Pro South's rise, IWE's rise, Southern Honor's rise in the awards. And it's something that needs to stop dead. I probably should have said something about this years ago, but it was so great to see more people wanting to get involved in the Georgia Wrestling History Awards. And it goes back to that point I was making before of times that I've stood up against the PCW wrestlers themselves. When PCW was rising up, there was this push from a number of the wrestlers to vote in a block to make sure PCW people won it all. And my stance was then and now, voting in a block is bullshit. IWE votes in a block. Southern Honor votes in a block, or they attempted to. That showed me that Southern Honor was fraying at the edges because their voting block wasn't as strong as it used to be, which is why they haven't won in the last couple of years. Pro South votes in an absolute block. That is pussy shit. And it's degrading the awards, and it's making the awards not mean as much. And I would urge people to stop it. If you don't stop voting in an obvious block, something will probably have to be done about that. Because at the end of the day, the reason those awards matter so much, and even lists from that somebody like a Dusty Finish contributes to apparently matter so much to these fucks. First of all, if you're somebody who the opinion of Dusty Finish matters to you, if when Dusty Finish says you're great and so you think he's a genius, or Dusty Finish is a part of something that you don't agree with, so he's an idiot, he's an idiot. Let me just throw it there. He's a part of GWH, I guess, but he's also kind of full of shit and kind of fucking dumb. But the boys are the boys. And if you say something nice about me, I like you. And if you don't say something nice about me, I hate you and you're terrible. That's some fucking nonsense. Anyway, in conclusion, stop voting as a block. Pro South, quit being fucking pussies. And Larry Goodman, his legacy, and probably him, because he works out a lot, is going to be around long after you're gone. So learn to love it. This is Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling.